Hi, I'm Jay Fadden. Thanks so much for joining us today on This Day. It's great to be back with you. And Father, it's a great show because we have a guest all the way from Canada.
And also, it's great to have you back,
Thanks.
Jay. Yep, and you're right. Ellen Gable is joining us, and she has this new book, her second book, called Emily's Hope. And the book is very interesting because it's all about waiting and loving.
Joining us now is Ellen Gable, a wife, mom, and author based in Ontario, Canada. So she's calling us from Ontario, Canada. She has written a book, Emily's Hope, and just released a second book, In the Name Only. So, first of all, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Hey, so glad you could join us. Now, here's a question. How cold is it up in Canada right now?
It's not that cold, but we have lots of snow.
Oh, well, we only have a little, and for some of our viewers who are in the warmer climates, they have none, so they don't even know, Ellen, what we're talking about. So, and what they're missing. A white Christmas is always a nice thing. Hey,
Oh, absolutely.
tell us about yourself and how you became an author.
Well, as you said, I'm a wife and mom. My husband and I have 5 sons, so
Wow.
it's noisy. I'm originally from New Jersey, but I now live in a small town here in Ontario, Canada. I'm a member of the Catholic Writers Guild. As to how I became an author, I've always been fascinated with genealogy and ancestry, and I loved hearing stories about my own ancestors. As a teenager, I felt a really strong connection to my great-grandmother, and I had this sort of idealized notion of who she was. Years later, I discovered some disturbing secrets about her, and it really weighed heavy on my heart. At the time, I was focused on being a wife and mom. I think my youngest was probably about a year old, and I was homeschooling. So I had no aspirations of being an author, certainly not a novelist. So one day I was praying in front of the Blessed Sacrament, and I had a revelation about my great-grandmother and about the spiritual connection that we share. So I came home, I told my husband, and he was actually the one who suggested that I write a novel based on the true stories of both myself and my great-grandmother. And of course, I prayed about it for over a year before actually sitting down and writing anything. And when I did finally begin writing, I knew I wanted to gear it to young adults and older teenagers.
You know, Ellen, this is Father Reed. I just think it's amazing that you have been able to, in a novel, place some solid information about what we believe as Catholic Christians, about living a chaste life. I just think it's amazing. This must have been a great spiritual exercise for you, was it not?
It was, very much so. And every day that I wrote, I spent time in front of the Blessed Sacrament, not so that I could be a great writer, but so that I could put into this novel what was important to put into it. And that in itself was a great exercise for sure.
Was it difficult to write this type of book for young people, knowing how they are today and really all of that they face?
Absolutely, very, very challenging. It was more difficult than I thought it would be initially, for sure. However, church teachings on sex and marriage played a huge part in my own conversion story, not only as a teen, but as a woman experiencing many miscarriages years later. So I knew that I wanted to weave information on natural family planning and the theology of the body into the book, and I wanted to illustrate the truth and beauty of the Church's teachings through the story. But I also wanted to be able to explain these teachings, and I was limited because it's a novel. So I also wrote a study guide, which is ideal for high school theology classes and book clubs and youth groups, and the study guide is available free of charge on our website.
Could you help us out? What is your website? Because I know that you've written a number of articles as well besides your books.
Yes, my website is www.fullquiverpublishing.com. That's fullquiverpublishing.com. I also have a blog at ellengable.wordpress.com. So information is there.
And you have a new book also. Tell us about that.
I have a new book. It's called In Name Only. It's a Catholic historical romance. I love reading romance, but I hate graphic, explicit stuff in books that I read. And so I basically wanted to write a Catholic historical romance which had themes of the theology of the body and with no graphic sexuality. And it recently received the Catholic Writers Guild seal of approval.
Great.
Now, speaking of seals of approval, you have 5 sons, Ellen.
I do.
Have some of your boys read the books, your articles?
Yes.
Do they give you their seal of approval?
Well, actually, my 20-year-old son is now reading my second book, which is in name only, and every 5 or 6 chapters he calls me, and he gives me his critique. But he says he's really enjoying it, and it's really neat for me to hear my son's feedback on my books.
Well, wonderful thing about sons, daughters, mothers, I know this from my mom, is that they will be totally honest with you what they're thinking, which is a very good thing.
Absolutely, for sure.
Ellen, thanks so much for being with us today and for writing these books. Very necessary in today's world, and keep up the great work.
Thank you so much.
Alan, God bless. Have a Merry Christmas to you, your husband, and your 5 sons.
Thank you so much. You
Okay.
too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.